Hey guys, Frosty Knives here, back with another EU book review. And today we are going to be taking a look at Razor's Edge by Martha Wells. And this is Martha Wells's one and only entry into the expanded universe. And this is book 2, or book 1, depending on when they were published, in the trilogy of books that was supposed to look at each of the big 3 mains from the original Star Wars. We already read the Han Solo book, which is Honor Among Thieves, and now we have Razor's Edge, which is the Leia book. And I just want to say off the top of the bat here that I think this is a much better book than the Han Solo book. I enjoyed this immensely. The read was quick and the read was enjoyable. So the story behind Razor's Edge, again, is a fairly simple one. Leia and some of the Alliance people are on their way to a meeting with some folks on Arnott Station. They are looking to see if they can purchase some supplies for their new base on Hoth for Echo Base. And they're looking to see if they can buy some material for that. On their way to the station, they happen to see a merchant ship being harassed by a pirate ship, which is commonplace in this system because this system has a lot of pirates on it. And they're going to ignore it because they don't want to blow their cover until Leia realizes that the pirate ship that's attacking the merchant ship is an Alderaanian gunship. Now, after Alderaan was destroyed, she says that they had reclaimed or identified most of the missing Alderaanian gunships, but there were a few of them out there that were never recovered and they could never find, and here was one of them. So she gets all indignant and wants to know where they got this ship. So she contacts the pirates and is basically like, hey, where did you get this ship? And she discovers that the pirates are also Alderaanian. They are survivors of the destruction of Alderaan. Now, most of the survivors of Alderaan have either joined the Rebel Alliance or have sort of gone off on their own to sort of live their own life away from the limelight. That's what the majority of them have done. But this group of Alderaanians have apparently turned pirate. And this pisses Leia off to no end. So what eventually happens is Leia and her group eventually get captured by the pirates. They're taken to the pirate stronghold. And then the rest of the story is Leia, with the help of Han and Luke and Chewbacca in the Millennium Falcon, trying to escape from the pirates and eventually trying to escape from the Imperial forces that have come into the system to see if they can try to capture some of the rebellion leadership. Spoiler alert, they all get away. Pirates get destroyed, Imperials are escaped from, and all of our heroes escape. They don't have any resources for Hoth, but they figure they'll get them somewhere else. So that's the story in a nutshell. And I really enjoyed this story. I thought this story was very well written. This story was very well paced. The battles, both the space battles and the internal battles and the firefights, were very innovative, very well written. We had some really good space battles. We had some really good firefights. We had a great battle between an insane mining droid. We had all kinds of things that make Star Wars in this book. And it was really well done. It was a fast read. It was 350 pages. my paperback copy, and it didn't feel like that. It went really, really well. So Martha did a really good job of moving the story along, but not feeling bloated and also not feeling rushed. It took the appropriate amount of time to tell the story that it needed to tell, and it was really well done. Now let's talk a little bit about the characters, since this is, a character book. And the three main characters in this novel were Leia, were Captain Matara, and Weist. So let's talk about each of those a little bit, and their role and how they are in the story. So we'll start with Weist. Weist is she is the pirate leader, the one that has captured Leia and the other Alderaanian crew. So she's the big bad pirate bad for the book. She is a Lordian, which means that she's not telepathic, but she can read people's feelings and body language. So it's very, very, very hard to lie to her because she's a Lordian reader. So she's the kind of person that they would bring in during interrogations to see if the prisoner is actually telling the truth or not. So I thought that was interesting. Weist, it was an interesting character. I think she was a very good big bad. She was the leader of this pirate stronghold, but she was also playing the angles for everything. She was more of a business person, I guess, than a pirate. She was selling slaves to the slave guild, but she was running the pirate stronghold, but she was also selling information to the Empire. So she was basically playing both sides. She was selling information, and she was to the pirates, and she was capturing the pirates and basically putting them in indentured servitude. And she was also selling information to the Empire. So she really was like a business person, more so than actual pirate. Everybody hated her, which is a good sign, right? That you're a good villain, is that all the people underneath you hate you and wish you dead. And when you're dead, they will carve up your empire and take what they can take for themselves. And that's essentially what happened to Weist after she was brought down. Typical pirate mentality, right? So then we have Captain Matara and we have Leia. Now let's talk a little bit about Captain Matara. So Captain Matara is an Alderaanian. She's a survivor of Alderaan. And the reason that she and her group didn't join the Rebel Alliance is because she was angry at them. She was angry at them because she felt that the rebellion essentially painted a target on Alderaan. And that was why Alderaan was destroyed. It was because of their affiliation to the Alliance. And Leia tries to tell her that that's not really true. Eventually, Alderaan would have been targeted, much like any other planet. But Matara was convinced that if Alderaan had stayed out of it, had just become neutral, that they would have been spared. And that's why she didn't join the Alliance, because of her hatred for what she claims that it destroyed her home planet. So she turned to a life of piracy because they needed supplies, they needed money, they were hungry, they needed food, and so she turned to piracy. She did piracy for 2 years, and it really was this sort of idea that she became a pirate, but she didn't really know or understand the true nature of the pirate life. She was never asked to make the hard decisions. And so in this book, when she starts having to make the hard decisions, when she finds out about the slave pens, when she finds out about indentured servitude, when she finds out that pirates are disposable, she's she doesn't like it. This is like an affront to her. She never thought that this was what it meant to be a pirate. And at one point Han made a comment to her about how where you thought it would be easy playing pirates, but it's not easy. This is the consequences of your actions. People die. People become slaves. These things happen. This is the reality of being a pirate. And Matara, she didn't quite get that at the beginning, but as the book goes on, she begins to realize that these are the consequences. This is what it means to be a pirate. And maybe she doesn't have that grit in her to be a pirate because she's from Alderaan, and Alderaan is peaceful. Alderaan doesn't even have a military. Alderaan was peaceful, and they were a planet of artists and philosophers and writers, and she's trying to be a pirate, and she just doesn't have the steel in her or the mentality in her to make the decisions that other pirates would make. And she begins to realize that as the book goes on until the very end. When she's like, this is not what I had intended. She's like, I never meant for this. She kept saying, I never meant for this to happen. This was not what I intended. I never thought that it would be this way, but she was never in that world, like Han was in that world. So she didn't know what that world was. She thought she could walk the line and be a pirate and still keep her morals and still keep her ethics, and come to find out that you can't. You have to make a choice. You have to choose which side of the line you're on. And eventually, Matara does choose what side of the line she's on. She's on the side of being a good, ethical person. It costs her life, but she finally does make that choice, and she's sorry for what she has done. She's sorry for dragging her crew into this sort of mess. She had a really good character arc. It's that realization of where you think you can do a thing and still hold on to your morals, but the thing that you're trying to do is really so far from what your morals are that, you can't toe that line. So I thought Matara was a good character to talk about those type of moral and ethical issues. I think it was really well done, really well written out. Now let's talk about Leia, since Leia is the focus of the book, right? Oh, Leia. Leia she's still young, right? This is 2 years after Alderaan is destroyed. She's still a young person. She's still young in the Alliance. And what I like about Leia in this book is that she's still young enough and she's still naive enough to think that somebody from Alderaan could not possibly be a pirate. And they couldn't possibly be a pirate because they're Alderaanian. The idea of somebody from her planet being a pirate or doing something that's contrary to Alderaanian beliefs and morality is so far-fetched for her that she can't even fathom that someone would do that. She's like, why didn't you join the rebellion? Why didn't you do something else? Why didn't you become bodyguards? Why didn't you become anything other than what you are? Like, she's so young, right? This idea of becoming something that you're the opposite of what you are is anathema to her. I mean, she'll eventually get jaded down the line, and she'll become more mature and more jaded and more understanding of the universe. But young Leia is just perplexed that these Alderaanians would even possibly think about becoming pirates. And I like that about her. She's still in that, I'm still this young, scrappy fighter. She's still in that black and white mode. She hasn't hit the areas of gray yet, where she'll get there. She'll get there, Han will get there, and, well, Han, I think, is already there. And Luke will get there. But Leia's not there yet. She still sees the world black and white. Empire, rebellion, good, evil, You're either here or you're here. You either do this or you do that. There's no gray. There's no questionable morality. There's none of that stuff, right? It's just black and white. And I love that about this Leia. She's young, she's scrappy, she's impulsive, she's a fighter, she gets into firefights, she always is putting herself on the front line. If she's sending people out on missions, most of the time she's going with them, so she's not asking people to put their necks out on the line when she's not willing to do that. Young Leia is just a great character of that scrappy, impulsive senator / rebel leader, and she hates that people hold her up on this pedestal, that she's this paragon of the Rebel Alliance, that she's the figurehead for the entire rebellion, and she hates that. She doesn't want to be a paragon or a figurehead. She just wants to be Leia, and she just wants to get out there in the trenches, and she wants to save the galaxy from the clutches of the Empire. So this is a good characterization of Leia. I think Martha Wells does a really good job of nailing this Leia in her young 20s and what she's like now versus what we sort of know she'll be like in the future. So this was a really good, for a Leia book, it was a really good sort of nuanced book with a lot of questions about morality and ethics, and what do you do when your back's to the wall, and what do you do when you're outgunned, outnumbered, starving, out of weaponry, ships need repair. You know, what do you do when certain things start pushing and punching holes in your morality and in your ethics? What do you do then? And which way do you turn? And if you turn one way or the other way, are you ready for the unintended consequences of your actions, which Matara was not ready for? So overall, I think this was a wonderful book to read. It had been on my TBR list, to be read list, for a very long time. I'm glad I finally got to read it. And I'm glad this is the last book that we're going to read before we get to the novelization of Empire Strikes Back. But I would highly recommend people reading this. If you like the Star Wars books, this is a really good book to read. And if you're a Leia fan, this is an especially good book to read, because you're going to get some good Leia moments in here. Really, really well done. I gave this book a 4 on Goodreads, and I think potentially it maybe could have even possibly been a 5. But it is a great book, and it is one of the better Star Wars books that I've read this year. And I'm really, really glad that I got to read it. So guys, that is my review of Martha Wells's Razor's Edge. Tell me your thoughts on it. Have you read it? Do you like Leia's stories? Have you read other Star Wars books? Tell me your thoughts on it. Put it down in the comments below. Let me know. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Share it around. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. Tell those people that you know that may not like Leia that, hey, this is a book that you can read that might change your mind about that. And as always, thank you for coming to my TED Talk, and I will see you in the next review.